Well, hello, my deliciously doomed night owls. Gather round, gather round. Pull up a log, roast a marshmallow. Maybe roast a friend if you're feeling extra crispy tonight. Your ghoulish guide to the graveyard shift is back again. The one, the only, the keeper of creeps, the diva of the dark, the ghoul your mother should have warned you about. Now tonight's terrorific tale comes straight from the great outdoors. Oh yes, nature, fresh air, singing birds, bugs the size of Volkswagens, and of course, those mysterious rustles in the woods that definitely aren't squirrels. Definitely. Now our victim, our hero, is a lonely little camper who thought a quiet weekend under the stars would help him disconnect. Isn't that adorable? If he wanted to disconnect, he could have just stuck his finger in a light socket. Much quicker. Anyway, he packs up his tent, his snacks, and that full sense of security humans seem to love so much, and heads off into the trees. But when the moon rises, something else rises with it. Something watching, waiting, hungry. Oh, but I won't spoil it. You know I hate spoilers. They taste like expired eyeballs. So grab your blankets, dim the lights, and listen closely. Let's head into tonight's spine-tingling saga.
I work wildland fire now for the Forest Service. Been doing it for 3 seasons. And before that, I worked on a contract fuels reduction crew up in Northern California near Tahoe. Hard work, long days, and a lot of time in the woods, but nothing I'd ever called supernatural. Back then, I was a swamper. I worked with this little Spanish guy named Laszlo, about my age, 22. Long hair, eyes like he never slept. But man, he was a hell of a sawyer. Took down trees I wouldn't even look at. End of season comes around, they send us north of Chico to prep a few trees for a prescribed burn. Easy day, just the 2 of us. Around lunch, we're sitting on a dead and down log. Laszlo's eating something out of a plastic container, and I'm about to destroy a peanut butter sandwich when I get up to take a piss. I tell him I'll be right back. He nods, mouthful. I walk maybe 30 feet across the flat to where the tree line starts. Lots of brush, a mess of manzanita, all the typical Northern California crap that grabs your ankles if you look at it wrong. I'm standing there, half zoned out, staring at this wall of brush while I'm doing my business. The manzanita is about 5 feet high. Dense. Nobody should have been able to stand inside it without making noise. And suddenly, Laszlo is standing right in front of me. Not behind me, not off to the side, not strolling up like a prank. He is in that brush 10 feet away, smiling at me. Just smiling, like he's saying, "Hey man." He even lifts his hand and waves. I swear to God, my whole body went cold. My stomach dropped. I spun so fast I nearly snapped myself in half and sprinted back to our lunch spot with everything hanging out. And Laszlo? He's still sitting on the log. Exactly where I left him. I'm out of breath, eyes wide, trying to make words happen. I tell him what I saw, voice cracking like a kid, and he just laughs, thinks I'm messing with him. Says I must have been dehydrated or zoning out. But I know what I saw. I've spent thousands of hours in the woods, camping, sleeping under the stars, busting brush, cutting fire line, you name it. None of that scares me. This was different. This was wrong. I still cowboy camp today. I don't make a big deal out of it around the crew. But that moment, that one instant, where I saw him in the brush when he was nowhere near it was the scariest damn thing that has ever happened to me. Laugh if you want. My mom did. But I know what I saw.
I had a rather strange camping experience in the lesser-known wilderness of East Tennessee. The campsite in question was a bit off the grid, not very well marked, and it was located near a creek. This secluded spot offered limited campsites, with one on the right side and a string of around 4 campsites on the left, following the course of the creek. The road was situated on higher ground, and one had to make their way down a hill on either side to access the campsites. The peculiar incident occurred around 1:30, when 2 substantial pickup trucks pulled up and set up at the first campsite on the left side, directly across from where my friends and I were camped. We couldn't help but find it bizarre that these individuals had arrived so late at night. After unloading their gear, they proceeded to build a substantial fire, which lit up their entire area. What struck us as even more unusual was the presence of exceptionally bright lights, which cast an eerie glow over their campsite. Adding to the mystery, they had set up a small, tall tent, one that might be used as a pop-up changing or privacy room. This was where things took an odd turn, and I should note that alcohol was involved, which might have affected my memory. I distinctly remember that the individuals at the campsite appeared to be wearing some sort of peculiar attire, robes, jackets, or other clothing that seemed to hold some significance. The color, from what I can recall, was possibly purple or dark blue. They were constantly moving in and out of the tent, while the others remained active around the fire. My friends and I couldn't resist periodically peeking over to observe what they were up to. Their actions had a certain ritualistic quality to them, though I must stress that we never considered them to be part of a sinister cult or anything of that sort. It was just the most reasonable explanation that came to mind at the time. Whatever they were engaged in, it didn't align with the typical camping activities of relaxing by the campfire and making s'mores. It was clear that they were involved in something, and they remained there throughout the night. We knew they must have been aware of our presence since our cars were parked nearby, so secrecy didn't seem to be a concern for them. They eventually left early in the morning, and while I didn't notice anything particularly alarming as they departed, I do recall seeing several trash bags in the back of their trucks. The only conventional explanation that comes to mind is that they may have been involved in some sort of volunteer trash cleanup, team building exercise, or perhaps a biological study. Has anyone else ever encountered a situation like this, or have any ideas about what this mysterious camping experience might have entailed?
The night shift. Working night shifts at a quiet hotel in Myrtle Beach during the off-season seemed harmless enough, until the darker side of those cold, lonely nights reared its ugly head. The shift from hosting snowbirds to attracting a seedier crowd brought with it a slew of unsettling incidents, meth labs, violent altercations, and the constant undercurrent of danger lurking in the shadows. One fateful night, after enjoying an indie wrestling show with my friend Andrew, the tranquility shattered. As I recounted the evening's excitement and proudly showed off my Terry Funk memorabilia, the innocuous sound of the doorbell heralded a chilling turn of events. Andrew collapsed before my eyes, a victim of sudden violence. I barely had time to react before a savage blow from a steel pipe struck my head, sending me reeling to the ground. The assailants vanished as swiftly as they had appeared, leaving behind a haze of confusion and pain. Bloodied and disoriented, I struggled to summon help, grappling with a malfunctioning phone in the back office. Fear clenched at my chest as I realized the attackers could return at any moment. With trembling hands, I locked the doors and dialed, desperate for assistance amidst the chaos. The arrival of police and paramedics brought a temporary reprieve, but the ordeal was far from over. I was rushed to the hospital, my head wound requiring 10 staples and a haze of morphine to dull the pain. Grateful for the kindness of hospital staff who ensured my safe transport home, I braced myself for the aftermath. Returning to work, haunted by unanswered questions and lingering fear, I found solace in the support of colleagues like Ted and Barbara, who offered both comfort and practical assistance. The weeks that followed were fraught with tension and uncertainty. as detectives pursued leads and I grappled with the trauma of the attack. The assailants remained at large, their motives obscured by the fog of that harrowing night. Despite efforts to identify them from grainy surveillance footage and a lineup of mugshots, justice remained elusive. The detectives' abrasive questioning only added insult to injury, questioning my certainty in identifying the perpetrators. Ultimately, the incident forced a reckoning with the perilous reality of late-night shifts in a volatile environment. With a family to support and a newfound awareness of my vulnerability, I made the difficult decision to leave behind the hotel industry and its nocturnal hazards. In hindsight, the attack wasn't just a random act of violence. It was a stark reminder of the risks lurking beneath the surface of seemingly mundane routines. Myrtle Beach's serene facade had been shattered, leaving scars both physical and emotional, and a resolve to seek safer paths forward. Working night shifts at the sprawling manufacturing facility was typically uneventful, despite its eerie reputation. Nestled amidst dark woods and surrounded by imposing fences, the building exuded a silent foreboding that amplified during the quiet hours of the night. Rumors of haunting incidents circulated among the staff, deterring most from volunteering for night duty. However, until one chilling night around Halloween, none of us had experienced anything out of the ordinary. It was during my lunch break, a chilly evening under the watchful gaze of motion-activated lights, when I stepped outside for a smoke. As I stood near the back door, grappling with the dim light's sporadic activations, I heard an unsettling noise emanating from the fence nearby. Initially attributing it to startled animals, I greeted the darkness with a tentative, "Hello?" The response was unexpected. The fence continued to rattle faintly, its rhythmic jingling unsettling me further. Peering into the shadows, my eyes strained to discern movement, a figure fidgeting with the chain links. My first thought was mischievous teens attempting a prank, but the solitary figure's odd behavior unnerved me. Alerting security via radio, I expected confirmation from the camera feeds. Instead, the response was baffling. They detected no movement by the fence. Perplexed, I reiterated my observation, only to be met with disbelief. Seconds stretched into an eternity as I stood frozen, the eerie quiet shattered by a sudden thrashing of the fence links. Instinct took over. With adrenaline surging, I fumbled to secure the door, frantically radioing for immediate assistance. Help arrived swiftly, but by then the mysterious figure had vanished without a trace. Back in the security office, my account of the incident was met with skepticism and uneasy laughter. Security footage replayed only my solitary figure, with no corroborating evidence of the encounter. Doubts gnawed at me. Had I imagined it all? Was it a trick of the shadows and moonlight? Yet the lingering detail of the door handle moving on its own, captured by both inside and outside cameras, defied rational explanation. It served as a haunting reminder that something inexplicable had occurred that night. Despite the dismissals and attempts to rationalize the experience, a seasoned colleague shared an uncommon admission that the north end of the facility always felt watched, as if unseen eyes bore into him during his shifts. His words echoed my unease, hinting at a shared, unspoken fear among the night crew. Though I remained at the job for several more months, the incident lingered in my mind. I avoided the back door, opting to take breaks in more populated areas. The eerie calm of those nights persisted, punctuated only by the mundane tasks and hushed conversations hinting at untold stories. As the company eventually restructured and eliminated overnight shifts, I departed with unanswered questions. The haunted factory remained a mystery, its secrets buried beneath layers of mundane routine and unspoken fears. I left with a smile and my story untold, pondering if others harbored similar experiences, waiting for the right moment to share their own tales of the haunted factory. I work in a nursing home, and my schedule consists of days, evenings, and nights. It's rough transitioning between days and nights, but everyone that works here has the same shifts, so we just get through them together. The building has about 100 residents with 3 floors. The building is shaped like Anil with a north and south wing, and the nursing stations in the middle. The third floor currently only has a few residents living there due to construction, with one of the wings completely shut down because they're ripping out the walls. Due to only a few residents being on that floor, only one nurse is required to be on duty on that floor. I've worked the night shift alone on that floor many times, and never really experienced anything scary or weird. Sure, it's creepy and dark at night, but that was it. I've never believed in the paranormal at all. I had the mindset that I had to see it to believe it. I'm a huge fan of true crime and scary movies and stories and true crime and paranormal documentaries, however. A few of my coworkers over the years had talked about how the third floor is haunted. They'd hear knocks at night and see weird things. I was always intrigued to hear about it, but we would always just laugh it off. But that night a few weeks ago has really started to change my mind. I was sitting in the nursing station watching movies and playing on my phone. I had just done my rounds and had answered a call bell. I had felt off that night and constantly had that feeling of being watched. I also kept on thinking that I was seeing things out of the corner of my eye. The next part is hard to explain, but I'll try as best I can. As I was sitting there, all of a sudden a shadow dropped from the ceiling and hovered over me. But by the time I realized what I was seeing, it was gone. My heart jumped and I jumped out of my chair. There was no way it would be a shadow from anything, or a car passing by, as the only window looked out into the forest, with nothing but trees for miles. After a few moments, I calmed down and left the nursing station to go check on my residents. Nothing seemed amiss, and none of them were awake, except for the little old lady at the end of the hall watching her TV shows. As I walked back to the nursing station, I swore I saw feet or a shadow moving under the crack of the door leading to the wing that was closed for construction. I opened the door just to make sure it wasn't a wandering resident from another floor, which happens quite often, but there was no one there. I walked back to the nursing station freaked out, still feeling like someone or something was watching me. I settled back into my chair and tried to watch TikTok videos to get my mind off of it. I was sitting with my back to the window, facing the door. After about an hour of watching videos, I glanced at the clock. It was 3:03. I remember being slightly annoyed as my coworker had promised to come up at 2:50 so I could have my break and go out to my car to have a smoke. Unhealthy, I know. I'm trying to quit, but that night I needed one. All of a sudden, I hear 3 knocks on the window behind me. I jumped up, looked out the window, and there I was, nothing. Flight mode took over and I just darted down the hall, running into my coworker who was just coming off the elevator. Now bear in mind, I'm on the 3rd floor, which is pretty high up. There was no stairway, tree, or ladder outside that window, so a person couldn't be outside knocking on the window. I immediately asked my coworker if she knocked or heard any knocking, and she said no. She could see how shaken up I was, and offered to switch floors for the remainder of the shift. I was very thankful, as being on the 2nd floor means you're with another nurse, so I wouldn't be alone. I went out to my car and had a few smokes and just tried to calm down. I talked to the nurse on 2nd floor and she didn't seem too surprised. She's heard knocking up there and seen and heard things she can't explain. A lot of people have died up there, and after that night I honestly don't know what to believe anymore. I haven't ever felt fear like I did that night, and I've since worked a few night shifts up there and didn't experience anything like that again. Could it be that I was just tired? I don't know, but I won't ever forget how I felt that night.
It's 3:17 a.m. That's what the glowing numbers on my phone say, and they look almost smug about it, like even the clock knows I should have called in sick tonight. I'm on the 3rd floor of a massive, empty warehouse in the dead center of the city. The kind of old industrial building that feels less abandoned and more like it's waiting. Waiting for something to happen. Waiting for someone to notice something they shouldn't. My job is simple. Walk the route, hit the sensor pads, don't fall asleep, don't fall down, don't think too hard about the noises. Simple. The 3rd floor, though? God, I hate the 3rd floor. It's a huge, echoing space full of empty metal racks that stretch so high they might as well touch the clouds. The lights hang from a ceiling so far up they disappear into the dark. They hum, Not a normal hum, but a low, sickly one that feels alive and casts this rotten yellow glow over everything. The only other light comes from the line of grime-coated windows along the far wall. Those windows look out over the alley behind the warehouse, which is always dark, always still. It's the kind of alley where you can just feel something once happened, even if you don't know what. I take a sip from my thermos, expecting the familiar comfort of coffee. Instead, it tastes like metal and old regrets. Great. I wander toward the window. It's stupid, but the alley gives me something to look at besides endless rows of silent shelves. Across the alley, I can see another building, a tall one. Gray, concrete, dead windows, a former office building the city forgot to condemn. Just a dead husk of a building. Until it isn't. Because while I'm staring into that black void, a tiny light flicks on inside one of the 10th floor windows. Just a pinprick, like someone striking a lighter. It flashes. Then again. I freeze, my coffee halfway to my mouth, the stale smell suddenly nauseating. It flashes again. Dot, dot, dot. Then a pause. Dot, dot, dot. SOS, I whisper. My voice sounds too loud in the emptiness. I wait, breath tight in my chest. When nothing else happens, I laugh, too hard, too sharp. Real funny, I say to the empty warehouse. Real mature. Kids messing around, a squatter fooling with a flashlight, urban explorers doing TikTok garbage. Easy explanation. I force myself back on patrol. My footsteps echo too much on the concrete, like the sound is bouncing off something unseen. The shelves seem taller now, like they've bent forward slightly, listening. I check the fire exit. Locked. I check the freight elevator. Locked, same as always. I check the emergency panel. Unlit. Everything is exactly the same as it's been every night for the last 7 months. After 30 minutes, my loop brings me back to the row of windows. I tell myself not to look. Tell myself it's nothing. But of course I look. The light is gone. In its place, something is being held up inside the window. A giant piece of cardboard. Crude letters scrawled across it in a thick white paint, or maybe chalk. Or worse. I squint to read it. Then my blood nearly stops moving. Behind you. The words might as well be carved straight into my spine. Every primitive instinct lights up at once. Run, hide, fight, freeze. I spin around so fast I nearly drop the thermos. My hand snaps down to my belt and I yanked out the mag light, the heavy one security gives you so it can double as a blunt weapon if someone jumps you. I shine the beam through the yellow haze. Who's there? My voice cracks like a teenager's. All I see is endless aisles of empty racks, dust, shadows, pools of light trembling on the concrete, a faint metallic groan from the building shifting. No movement. No person. No reason for the sign across the alley to be telling me that. I swallow hard. My mouth tastes like dust and fear. This is stupid, I tell myself. A prank. Someone's messing with you. I force myself back toward the window, to yell, to tell whoever it is to screw off. But the sign has changed. Now it says, not joke, on catwalk, stay still. My mind stutters. I don't want to look up. Hell, I think my soul doesn't want to look up. But something makes me, that way fear does, that awful mixture of curiosity and survival. 40 feet above me, runs the maintenance catwalk. A thin metal walkway bolted into the rafters. Rusty. Narrow. I've never been up there. I don't even know how to get up there. I slowly raise my flashlight, the beam trembling as it climbs the racks, then the pipes, then the darkness above. Just rust and shadow. No movement. No person. No. I turn back toward the window. The sign has changed. The figure holding it is still hidden in darkness, but the sign is unmistakable. He is watching you. I called police. My heart slams against my ribs like it wants to escape. My radio crackles so loudly I nearly drop the mag light. Unit 4, this is dispatch. We have a 911 call reporting a 1031 at your location. Caller states they have visual on an intruder. Can you confirm? I can't speak. I'm shaking all over, breath locking in my throat. I look up at the catwalk. And that's when I hear it. A single, soft scrape of a boot on metal. A slow shift of weight. Above me. On the walkway. The air turns electric. My blood runs cold. He's real. He's up there. The sign disappears. A second later, a new one rises into view. Ladder, far wall. He's coming down. That breaks me loose. I run. I don't think. I don't pick a direction. I just run down the aisle, past racks and shadows and rows of metal that suddenly feel like a maze. My footsteps are frantic, loud, too loud. Behind me, faint but definite, I hear boots hitting metal rungs. He's climbing. I reach the freight elevator and slam the call button so hard I feel something in my thumb pop. Come on. Come on. I risk a glance down the aisle. At the far end, silhouetted in the distant spill of outdoor light behind the loading bay doors, stands a tall, thin figure. Still. Watching me. He doesn't move. But I swear to God, the temperature around me drops. The elevator dings behind me, and the gate rattles open. I dive in and hammer the lobby button with my fist. The gate begins to slide closed with that old grinding metallic groan. The figure starts walking toward me. Slowly. Deliberately. No rush. Like he already knows the ending. The gate slams shut. The elevator lurches downward. My knees buckle. I slide down the wall, chest heaving, shaking like I'm freezing. When the doors open, the bright fluorescent lights of the lobby hit me like a slap. 2 cops stand there, guns drawn. My boss Jerry is behind them, pale and sweating. Mark, thank God. Are you okay? Upstairs. 3rd floor, on the catwalk. There was a guy. Someone across the alley saw him. He had signs. He warned me. The cops exchange a look. A bad look. The kind that means they already know something I don't. One officer lowers his weapon. Sir, we already cleared the building, ground a roof. Canine included. There's nobody up there. What? No, I saw him. Jerry puts a shaky hand on my shoulder. Mark, what guy across the alley? The guy in the window, the building across the alley. He was holding signs. The older cop sighs. Sir, the building across the alley isn't abandoned. What? It's dark. It's the city's primary data storage annex. It's active and it's high security. My stomach drops. The cop continues, it has no windows. I turn. I look. Across across the alley is a towering, perfectly smooth block of polished black granite. No windows, not one. But I saw... The second officer steps closer, gentle in a way that makes my skin crawl. We check the logs. The freight elevator you came down in? He nods toward the old crate with the out of order sign still hanging on it. The motor burned out 4 days ago. It hasn't moved since Tuesday. My throat closes. But no, that's impossible. And the 911 call, the one about the intruder. I look up slowly. His eyes meet mine with real pity. We traced it. He points toward the ceiling. It came from the emergency phone on the third floor catwalk. A beat. It came from you. The warehouse hums behind me. The elevator groans. Somewhere high above, metal creaks. And all at once, I realize something. I don't know where the man went. I don't know how he got down. And worst of all, I don't remember ever touching that emergency phone.
The hotel that wasn't there. I wasn't planning on stopping. Hell, I never stop on long drives unless my bladder's threatening mutiny. But that night, the fog came down like a punishment. Thick and swirling and alive, swallowing the road, my headlights, and most of my sanity with it. Ohio fog is one thing, but this was the kind of fog you see in movies right before someone goes missing and the sheriff shakes his head like, city folks don't understand these woods. My GPS chirped, glitched, froze. Then the screen went black. Perfect. I slowed to a crawl, face practically pressed to the windshield, when a small, trembling neon sign materialized out of the haze like an apparition. Hotel. No name. Just hotel. The kind of sign that feels less like an advertisement and more like a warning label. But I was exhausted, half blind, and too stubborn to pull over on the shoulder like a normal person, so I turned in. The gravel lot crunched under my tires. No other cars. Not even a staff vehicle. Inside, the lobby smelled like lemon cleaner and something older underneath, like the ghost of cigarette smoke before the indoor bands came along. The wallpaper was this faded floral thing that reminded me of the 1950s, and the chandelier overhead had one bulb flickering every few seconds like it was trying to get my attention. The clerk sat behind the counter like he'd been placed there, not hired. Pale, thin, hair too neatly combed for 1 a.m. He didn't speak, didn't smile, didn't look at me. He just slid a ledger forward with a single yellowed key placed on top. Old brass, heavy, ornate. No room number. Where's this to go? I asked. No response. Not even a blink. Just that rigid, delicate stillness, like a mannequin waiting to remember it was alive. You'll find it, he muttered eventually, barely moving his lips. I wanted to laugh, but something in his voice made the sound die in my throat. He didn't say it like a suggestion. He said it like a fact. The hallway upstairs smelled faintly of mildew and cold stone. Not gross mildew, just old mildew. Like the building wasn't abandoned, but it probably should have been. My footsteps echoed way too loudly. Not like shoes on carpet, more like boots on a church floor. Everything felt hollow, spaced wrong. I tried the third door on the left because the key just fit, clicked like it had been waiting. Inside the room wasn't dirty, wasn't creepy, just off. Too neat, too staged, like a photograph of a hotel room rather than a real one. The bed was tucked so tight I could have bounced a quarter. The curtains drawn even though there was no light outside to block. And on the desk was a rotary phone. Black, dusty, heavy. My back hit the mattress with a dull thump. And that's when the feeling hit me. Someone had been in here. Not hours ago, minutes. The air still felt disturbed, like a breath that hadn't settled. I tried to ignore it. Went back to the car to grab my charger. Took maybe a minute, maybe two. When I returned, the door was slightly open. I stopped cold. I never leave a door ajar. Ever. Inside, nothing was stolen. Nothing moved. Except for the phone. It was sitting at a slightly different angle. Not much, but the cord was taut, stretched like someone had picked it up and set it down too quickly. A thing like that is either nothing or it's everything. Okay, I whispered to myself, hands sweating. Not funny. I checked the closet, bathroom, under the bed. Nothing. I locked the door, put the chair under the knob because I'm not stupid, turned off the lights, tried to sleep. When the rotary phone rang at 1 a.m., it felt like someone had detonated a bomb in the room. The sound wasn't normal. It was too loud. Like the phone wasn't ringing, like the air was. It rang again. 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 I picked up on the seventh ring. There was static at first. A soft, wet kind of static, like someone whispering underwater. Then, a voice. Not a hiss. Not a growl. A whisper so close it felt like lips were brushing my ear. You're in my room. My whole body locked. The voice was wrong. Too intimate. Too steady. Too close. You shouldn't have come back, it whispered. Then the line cut, but the phone kept humming, vibrating, breathing. I dropped the receiver. That's when the door handle began to turn. Slow, deliberate, testing the tension of the chair braced beneath it. The chair scraped an inch. Another inch. Another. I backed away until I hit the far wall. The handle twisted again. Firmer this time. Not frantic. Not rushing. Just patient. The most terrifying thing in the world is something that isn't in a hurry. Then it stopped. The handle settled. The metal went still. For the rest of the night, nothing happened. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed. But I didn't sleep. Not 1 second. When dawn finally crept through the curtains, I grabbed my bag, took the chair away, and opened the door. The hallway was empty, silent, dusty. I hurried downstairs. The clerk was gone, the ledger gone, lights off. The entire lobby felt like a museum exhibit left in storage too long. When I stepped outside, the fog swallowed the hotel almost instantly, like it had only ever been loaned to the land. I don't tell many people about that night, not because they won't believe me, but because a part of me is afraid that talking about it might bring it back. Every now and then, when I'm driving late and my GPS glitches, I swear I see a faint neon hotel sign materialize in the mist. And I never, ever take the exit.
I don't scare easily. I grew up in the woods, hunted most of my life. I even worked night security at a lumber yard once. Strange noises in a forest? Normal. Strange people in a forest? Also normal. I thought I had seen it all. That was before I took a temporary job as a grounds tech for Redwater National Forest, and before an old forest worker put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Listen to me, kid. Whatever happens out there, don't look up." The job was simple enough. Clear an overgrown service road that hadn't seen daylight in years. My partner was a guy named Art, mid-60s, long beard, blank stare. Moved like a shadow that learned how to walk. While loading tools, he handed me a park-issued poncho and said, "Wear this. Doesn't matter if it's sunny." I laughed. Why? Less silhouette, less shape for it to see. I didn't know what the hell that meant, but I put the poncho on. 2 miles into the backcountry, the world changed. Not normal forest quiet, not peaceful quiet. This was vacuum quiet. Like every creature with a heartbeat had gone underground. Not even wind. Not even flies. Just the sound of old trees shifting like ancient bones. "Why is it so dead out here?" I asked. Art didn't turn, didn't blink. Forest has places it doesn't like being touched. While clearing branches, I heard something above us. A soft, dragging sound, like long claws sliding along bark. Instinctively, I tilted my chin upward, and Art grabbed my wrist. "Don't look up." "Why? A mountain lion?" "Don't." Something above us stopped moving, like it knew we'd noticed. The noises never stopped. Heavy shifting in the canopy, wet breathing, leaves trembling without wind. Sometimes it sounded like something large sliding between branches. In the corner of my eye, a massive shape drifted overhead. Not climbing, not jumping, sliding. I almost looked. Art snapped. "Eyes down. Don't let it think you're challenging it." "What is it?" He didn't answer. We reached a bend of trees, forming a natural archway. Bent inward, wrong, Somehow, Art stopped dead. We can't go in there. Map says map wasn't made by the forest. A deep creak sounded above us, fast, heavy, predatory. Dust fell onto my poncho. I swallowed. Art, I think it's right above us. I know. What does it want? To stay unseen. Then it started mimicking. First, it whispered Art's name, then mine, then, "Come on, sweetheart, look up." My mother's voice. My legs nearly buckled. Something massive shifted overhead, needle rain. Art's grip tightened. If you see its shape, it sees yours. That's how it chooses. Chooses what? Barely audible. Dinner.
Art didn't say another word. He just started walking, fast, never running, never raising his head, keeping his eyes on the ground, like a man praying. The thing above us moved too, parallel, matching our pace, sometimes speeding ahead, sometimes falling behind, but never leaving the tree line overhead. I heard the branches flex under its weight, heard its breath hitch when we slowed, heard it click its teeth, sharp chitinous sounds like a warning. We reached the tree line where the forest began to thin, and that's when it screamed. A high, hollow, bone-twisting scream that sounded like metal being torn apart. Art didn't stop, didn't react, didn't flinch. "Don't run," he said through clenched teeth. "Running means prey." Finally, we broke into a sunlit patch where the canopy ended abruptly, a natural border where the old growth stopped. Art stepped across first. I followed. The moment my boots touched the sunlit dirt, the forest behind us went silent. Then something enormous moved deeper into the shadows, retreating, like it refused to step into the light. Art put his hands on his knees and exhaled for what felt like minutes. "You good?" I asked. He just shook his head. We walked back to the truck in silence. Once we were inside with the door shut, Art finally spoke. "There are things in Redwater older than anything with a name. The tribes didn't hunt in that part. The loggers avoided it. Hell, even the birds avoid it." "What was it?" I whispered. He stared straight ahead. "The canopy doesn't belong to us. Some things live between the branches. They don't want to be seen. If you look at them, really look at them, they think you're challenging them. A challenge means you're fair game." "Has anyone ever looked?" He nodded once. "Yeah." "And?" "We don't bring body bags. We bring empty forms." I left that temp job early, but sometimes at night, lying in bed, I swear I hear something creaking outside my window, something shifting above the roof. Sometimes I hear the whistle again, and every time I keep my eyes down, because I know one thing now. If you look up, it looks back.
I never considered myself the kind of person who'd pick up a stranger on the side of the road. But that night, I did. And I regret it every single day. It was late August. The roads barely lit beyond the small town I had left behind. I was driving home after visiting my sister in Syracuse, tired, running on autopilot. Mile markers blurred past. The only sound in the car was my playlist on shuffle, the faint hum of tires on asphalt, and the occasional hoot of an owl in the distance. Then I saw him. He stood perfectly still on the side of the road, thumb out, drenched in sweat even though the night was cool. Skinny, maybe 20, with shaggy dark hair plastered to his forehead and eyes that glimmered under the lone streetlight. "Do you need a ride?" I asked, more out of reflex than any real desire to stop. He nodded quickly, sliding into the passenger seat before I could change my mind. He didn't say anything at first, just stared straight ahead, breathing shallow, tapping his fingers lightly against his thigh. I tried to make small talk. "Where are you headed?" "Just somewhere safe," he said, voice calm but strangely hollow. I frowned, but didn't push it. We drove in silence for a few minutes until he asked something that made my stomach twist. "Do you live alone?" I blinked. Yeah. Why?" "Because it's easy to be alone at night. Easier to..." He trailed off, letting the words hang in the humid air. I swallowed hard, trying to ignore the way my hands gripped the wheel. He seemed normal at first, but there was something in the way he talked, the pauses, like he was measuring my reactions, testing the boundaries. Then came the names. "Your neighbor, the one with the golden retriever, he isn't home tonight. The woman on Maple Street, the one who lives by herself, she's asleep, but only for now." I froze. My knuckles whitened on the wheel. How could he know that? Then I saw him. He stood perfectly still on the side of the road, thumb out, drenched in sweat even though the night was cool. Skinny, maybe 20, with shaggy dark hair plastered to his forehead and eyes that glimmered under the lone streetlight. "Do you need a ride?" I asked, more out of reflex than any real desire to stop. He nodded quickly, sliding into the passenger seat before I could change my mind. He didn't say anything at first, just stared straight ahead, breathing shallow, tapping his fingers lightly against his thigh. I tried to make small talk. "Where are you headed?" "Just somewhere safe," he said, voice calm but strangely hollow. I frowned, but didn't push it. We drove in silence for a few minutes until he asked something that made my stomach twist. "Do you live alone?" I blinked. Yeah. Why?" "Because it's easy to be alone at night. Easier to..." He trailed off, letting the words hang in the humid air. I swallowed hard, trying to ignore the way my hands gripped the wheel. He seemed normal at first, but there was something in the way he talked, the pauses, like he was measuring my reactions, testing the boundaries. Then came the names. "Your neighbor, the one with the golden retriever, he isn't home tonight. The woman on Maple Street, the one who lives by herself, she's asleep, but only for now." I froze. My knuckles whitened on the wheel. How could he know that?
I never really considered myself the paranoid type. I liked old houses, the creaks and groans, the way the wind whistled through gaps in the siding. I liked the solitude. But that summer, living alone in an apartment above a small hardware store in upstate New York, I started questioning everything. It was a Saturday evening, humid and sticky. I had just finished dinner and was sprawled across the couch when I heard it. A faint, metallic scrape, high-pitched and deliberate. At first, I thought it was the old plumbing settling, or maybe the wind rattling the vent covers in the ceiling. But then I heard it again, closer this time, almost like fingernails dragging across metal. I got up, flashlight in hand, and checked the vent near the kitchen. Nothing. Just a thin metal grate covering the air duct. I blew out my breath, laughed at myself for being jumpy, and went back to the couch. Around midnight, I woke to a whisper. I'm not exaggerating. A whisper, soft and wet, like someone was speaking directly into my ear, but from far away. "Hello?" I called, my voice cracking. Silence. I grabbed my phone and checked the front door. Locked. Windows locked. Everything was normal. But that sense of being watched had crept into the room, crawling up my spine and settling there. I told myself it was my imagination. Maybe too many horror podcasts. Maybe the heat and humidity were making me restless. I tried to sleep. It wasn't until the next morning that I started noticing things out of place. Small things. My kitchen knife slightly tilted on the counter, a chair pulled back an inch from the table, a sock on the floor I knew I'd folded the night before. I figured I'd been clumsy. That evening, I went to bed earlier, hoping to shake the unease, but the noise returned. Scraping, then a muffled thump, and then the unmistakable sound of footsteps above me. I live in a single-story apartment. There's no second floor. My heart hammered as I grabbed a flashlight and went to investigate. That's when I noticed it. The vent in the living room had been disturbed. One of the screws holding the grate in place was loose. I pried it open, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, and that's when I saw him. A man, pale, gaunt, dressed in tattered clothing, crouched in the vent, eyes wide, sunken, staring straight at me. I swear he wasn't fully human. His movements were jerky, unnatural, his spine bent in ways it shouldn't have been able to bend. I froze. He froze. Neither of us moved for what felt like an eternity. Then, in a voice that was raspy but quiet, he said, "You shouldn't be here." I stammered. What are you doing up there?" He didn't answer. Instead, he scrambled back up the duct, disappearing out of sight. My apartment felt enormous and empty after he left, every shadow suddenly threatening. I called the police. They searched. Found nothing. I moved out a week later. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, the sense that he was still there, somewhere in the vents, waiting. My new apartment has no old ducts, no crawl spaces. I sleep better, but sometimes when I hear a strange scrape in a hotel vent or a weird thump in the ceiling at night, I can't help but look up and remember that night. And I swear, just for a second, I feel eyes on me.
Well, my cool friends. It looks like our poor little storyteller found out the hard way that sometimes the safest place in your home is anywhere except your own damn bedroom. Imagine that. You think you're alone, cozy under the blankets, drifting off to dreamland, and surprise! There's a creepy little crawl space creeper peeking at you through the vents like it's Black Friday at the Peeping Tom Depot. Oh, don't look so shocked. It's the oldest trick in the Boo-Hoo book. If you hear scratching in the walls, kids, it's either rats or someone who's been living rent-free longer than your childhood trauma. But hey, look on the bright side. At least now you'll check your vents before bed, and your attic, and your basement, and that one weird closet you never open because it just feels wrong. Trust your instincts, my morsels. They're usually right, especially when they whisper, "You are not alone." Delicious. All right, my midnight munchies. If you enjoyed tonight's tale of terror, be sure to like, subscribe, and sacrifice a fresh soul. Share the video with a friend. And if you have a spooky story of your own, send it in. Who knows? Maybe you'll be the next tasty tale on our channel. Until next time, boils and ghouls, sleep tight. And whatever you do, don't look at the vents. You never know who's looking back.